So let's talk about one of my favorite aspects in the entirety of the game, which is gem crafting, slotting, and using them to plan your builds. What are gems going to do? They are going to give you huge power spikes without the necessity to change your gear level. So for example, you could be more powerful than something that has your level because these gems are going to give you slots. They are going to give you things for your spells, for your builds. So let me give you an example right here. We have a tier 2 jewel slot right here into my Shadow Bolt. The Shadow Bolt, initially, it's going to deal 170% magic damage, and it's also going to give me Leech. Leech, remember, it's just lifesteal. But then also, hitting a target that is affected by Leech deals 47% bonus damage, meaning that if I hit someone that already has Leech from a different spell, from this Jewel 2, Tier 2 Jewel, that is going to translate into 217% damage instead of the 170% damage that initially would be. Now, hitting a target affected by Leech also heals yourself by 2.9% of your maximum health, which is amazing. This is the lowest possible Jewel tier that you have in the game. Then you also have the highest one, which initially, the RNG of everything, it's going to give you a little bit more when it comes to value in numbers, but it also, what it does is that it adds every tier, it's going to add one more skill. So for example, the tier 2 has 2 skills, the tier 3 has 3 skills, and then the tier 4 has 4 skills. Now, more often than not, you're going to get those gems, you're going to get those jewels from killing enemies. You're going to farm them. There are some things that we're going to be discussing in this video for us to be able to craft them ourselves and tailor them ourselves. But initially, more than anything, when you're starting out the game, remember that they can be looted. So that's going to be the main gem. That's going to be your main thing. That's what you're going to be doing. Then later on, when you kill B-Bloods, this is where you're going to get new jewels. This is going to give you access to, for example, the devourer. Have in mind that you have a whole bunch of crafting materials when it comes to jewels. You have the jewels that are already crafted, that have already been processed, and then you have the regular gems that are as they are on their base form. These guys right here, these are the ones that you are going to need to be able to later on produce these things right here, which are going to be your jewels. My advice is that early on, even on mid-game. Now, on mid-game, you're not going to be crafting level 3 jewels. If you can get them, that's cool. But if you want to build them yourself, just use the tier 2. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But I was talking about the devourer. Because if you come to the devourer and you have a whole bunch of jewels that you don't want, that you don't need, that you feel that you don't have, like, you don't like the skills, then you can immediately take them over here to the devourer, and trust me, you're going to get lots and lots and lots and lots of them that you are not going to need. Once you have gotten them to the devourer, we're going to go back to our working stations. At level 53, you're going to fight against Terra, the Geomancer. This is on the second act of the game. So it's still pretty early mid-game. Do not be afraid about the level. You should be mid-game at this point. This is where you're going to be able to craft gem cutting tables, and also this is where you're going to be able to craft your crude gems into regular ones. So how does this work? Well, basically you have your gem cutting table and then you have, for example, this is a regular ruby, but just imagine that it's a crude one. If you place this thing right here, it's going to be transformed later on into a flawless ruby. It requires for 3 of these guys to be right here, and the process is actually quite long. So my advice is that you, for example, separate them, split them, take 2 of them right here, and then take them over to the other gem cutting table that you're going to have right here. So that is how you're going to refine them. Now let's talk about tailoring ourselves and my recommendations on what you should be tailoring for yourself or not. Here on the Jewelcrafting table, you're going to have a whole bunch of different gems that you are going to be able to craft into tailor. My advice, this is just purely a recommendation. I want to stress that out as much as possible. It's purely a recommendation. My advice is that you focus yourself early and somewhat mid-game, early mid-game, and early endgame just into the jewel tier 2, because these are the ones that you can craft, that you can tailor. My advice is that the jewel level 3, the level 3 jewels, this, if you have them, if you kill beef lots and you were lucky enough to get these guys right here, then yes, of course, you might as well. But I wouldn't advise for you to waste the dark silver into this, because the dark silver is a very precious material. It requires a whole bunch of crafting and refining and a whole bunch of things that you're going to have to do. Now, if you do actually want to spend the time to do so, then might as well. Yes, of course. Why not? So now, your jewels that you have right here that are being crafted, you are going to take them over to the Jewelcrafting station. Now, the tier level 4s, you'll see that you are going to be required for a greater Stygian shard. How do I get those? Well, you are going to be required to be level 80 plus to some extent. It could also be done if you're skilled enough, if you're good enough, or you have a nice build setup around level 70. As a matter of fact, I began engaging with the Ruins of Motium at 70. The greater Stygian shards, you're going to get regular Stygian shards right here on the level 1 incursions. But then, after this are finished, later on you're going to get level 2 incursions. There are two things that you should be spending your greater Stygian shards on, which is on legendary ancestral weapons right here, because they are randomized as well. But also, once you have reached that endgame, your flawless rubies that you have right here, your flawless rubies, your flawless amethyst, I have a couple of, as you can see, I have a couple of flawless emeralds right here. These are randomized as well. As a matter of fact, let me go grab some greater Stygian shots and I'll show you right away. So now I have a couple of them that I had stored in here, and now I can craft, like, for example, my jewel tiers level 4 right here. So let's make, for example, I was looking for a bone explosion. If we craft this bad boy right here, you will see that it'll give me the things that I'm going to get right here. So heals all allied skeletons by 74% of their maximum health and reset their lifetime. That's actually quite nice. I like that one. Spawns a nova of projectiles from impact location, each projectile dealing 39% damage and inflicting condemn. This is all kind of nice, but if I were to craft a different one, it should be different. Now, this, instead of the healing my skeletons, it's going to trigger a second lessened explosion at the same location, dealing 34% more damage. This should also be used to tailor your needs. So, for example, you will see that right here, it could also have gems, like for example, this for a Death Knight. This one increases Death Knight damage by 15%. But also has the Skeleton Mage summon by the Death Knight is going to have 30% more power, opposite to this one, which has 16% more damage by the Death Knight, but the Mage, it's 28%. So all of that is randomized as well. Have that in mind. If you want to get the perfect values, you can most certainly, definitely can. But it could also be the case that you don't necessarily are going to get like just better values, but overall completely different skills on your gems. Now, one final note before you can actually start engaging into the flawless, like I said, my recommendation, my personal recommendation is that if you get level 3 tier jewels, you can use them, but don't craft them. the materials are way just too expensive to do so. The devourer is going to be your best friends when it comes to getting the flawless gems, which at the end of the day you're going to be able to craft them until you are gear level 70, so you're getting close to the early endgame. That being said, that's not the only thing that you are going to need to be able to produce the jewel. At level 70 you're going to be able to produce the greater jewels. These are the ones for level 3. Remember, the materials for these ones are just way too precious. I wouldn't recommend for you to do so. And then it is not going to happen until level 83 that you're going to be able to craft the primal jewels, which are the tier 4 jewels. This is where you are to some extent properly on the end game, and this is where you can start farming the rift incursions. If you want to engage in PvP, if you want to engage in endgame PvE, this should be your endgame. This should be your goal. Getting better percentages than everyone else on the server. Getting better percentages so you can fight bosses with more ease, because you're going to be dealing more damage in percentage and your skills are overall going to be complementing each other just fine. Anyways, if you like the content, like never super appreciate it. And also, you're today a gorgeous and beautiful person. You're today a gorgeous and beautiful person. Have a lovely, lovely day. And goodbye.